Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm excited to be here with you all. I am Dr. Cheryl Clarke, and I'm going to be really giving you some insight on prioritizing your mental health. And I'm super excited to share with you. So I'm going to jump right into it. I'm going to share my screen with you so you can get an opportunity to go ahead and be a part of this session. What I want you to do firstly is I want you to go ahead and I want you to get a pen and pad out because I believe in making sure that you are recognizing that this opportunity for you is to get everything that you need in this space. All right. All right. So as I share my screen with you, this is your opportunity to get really, really clear on what you need in this area. All right, so prioritizing your mental health, leading with emotional intelligence for lasting impact. I am Dr. Cheryl Clarke. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I am your leadership and communication expert. And in this area, I've been leading people for over 25 years, helping them to transform their lives, mastering in the art of communication, and building a confidence of healing. Because I believe once we heal the past traumas, we can begin to move in this area. So I advocate for personal development, personal impact. And with organizations, individuals, couples, I help to unlock their true potential. And I have a weekly a weekly show that I do on YouTube, Speak Your Power Now, that you can get connected with me, or in my website, speakyourpowernow.com, that you can go ahead and do that right now. All right. So let's jump right into it with a question. Let's start with a question. What is the one word that describes how you feel right now? I want you to take a moment, write it down, and I want you to describe the one word. I want you to go ahead and pause if you need to pause for a moment. And I want you to recognize and understand that these words are important to you. So you may need to pause right now. And I want you to go ahead and do that. So I hope you did that as we come back. And I want to hear some of the responses you may see. Here are some of the responses that I usually hear back that really show up. Some words are positive, like I'm excited, I'm hopeful, I'm calm, I'm energized, I'm curious, right? I'm motivated, I'm happy. Some are neutral. Maybe I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm uncertain. Those are some of the neutral responses. Some are very much so challenging responses. Maybe I'm overwhelmed. I'm tired. I'm stressed. I'm anxious. I'm frustrated. I'm drained. So those are the things that will probably come up. And maybe there's some of the words that may have come up for you. So I hope you took that moment just to ask yourself that question and take the exercise and use that for awareness, because awareness is the key. Awareness is the amazing key for you to recognize who you are in your mental health and where you're starting the day off. And your mental health can impact your performance. Okay? So let me get into it. I'll share a story real quick of how my leadership and my challenges have happened struggling with me. So as a leader, we focus on results, we focus on deadlines, we focus on various numbers of things that may happen, the bottom line, what happens when people begin to struggle and we don't really know what's happening. So I learned this lesson the hard way. So as a therapist, but things happen, when you're moving throughout the day and I have a company and everything, I learned that one of the persons that was a really great performer, he really, really, really was knocking it out the box. He began to miss deadlines. His energy was low. He began to withdraw in meetings. And the first phase of it all, I'm thinking, okay, this is very early on. I'm like, maybe he'll bounce back because I know he's really good and he bounces back. But when you look at the performance and when you look at mental health, you can't just bounce back. So the truth is, I had no idea really how to support him in regarding this, but I knew I had some insight in where we were going or where possibly some things may have been happening on the back burner. So what I did is what many leaders would do, I focused on the performance, which is where I went wrong in the very beginning. So I looked at how many times he missed deadlines and completes tasks, the number of things that he did, right? And I thought the answer would have been giving him the constructive feedback, right? So he can improve. Because I know once I give him this motivational talk, he's going to get back on this on the road, the right track, and he's going to do what he needs to do. Well, I was wrong. Then that may have happened to you. So because when you look at this, you got to set aside the spreadsheets. You got to set aside the performance reviews. You got to sit down with the people in your company when you see something has shifted. And you got to really get human to human with them. And I asked him how he was doing. And I shut up and I listened. I listened. And in that moment, it became a turning point for me as a leader. It became a real space for me to shift how I was focusing on managing tasks and understanding that people are behind these tasks. I had to learn how to prioritize my mental health and their mental health. It isn't just an act of kindness, it's about a leadership strategy. Because if you don't look at, I'm sorry about that, when you don't look at what you are moving into, sometimes you only focus on the deadlines. And what happens is anxiety creeps up because this is what I found out about him. Anxiety was creeping up. And he was a good performer. He was just missing deadlines. And I had to really look at the root of the problem. And the lesson that I learned is that initially I was focused on the performance and not the person. And I had to really return to how I am looking at it. And I realized something very crucial is that our mental health is the foundation of how we move. It's also when we give the support of the idea of support system. How and where are we failing in this? And I am taking on leadership and understanding how I can help leaders also look at their team. What's missing is not about the deadlines, it's really about how you are deciding what to do. And this opened up a conversation, and this was a very humbling experience for me. I had to stop focusing on the result and start focusing on the people, creating a space for dialogue, creating a space that people can start to feel supported. And this is where I'm going to help you to begin to move in this. So right now, I want you to write down some things that may have come up with me by me telling you this story. And I want you to see if you are really providing a safe environment for your people. I want you to see, are you showing up a whole self for you? Are you really moving in that space? So I want you to really look at that, okay? Because when you put people first, the results will follow. And that's what I found out, okay? So let's look at this. After me looking at this, I realized my approach wasn't working. So I knew something had to shift. And the first thing I introduced to my team, as well as other organizations that I lead with, is introducing something called emotional intelligence. And I'm going to explain it later on in the session what it is. And there is something that happens that comes into play with emotional intelligence. We are going to get into it a little later, but it asks you why I noticed the signs. Why didn't I notice these signs earlier? Why wasn't I so quick to prioritize deadline? Why am I doing this? Because emotional intelligence begins with awareness and acknowledgement of your own blind spots. So the approach, I had to adjust my leadership approach by focusing on emotional intelligence. Then the shift. I had to decide to get honest and work with these things and practice the active parts of being empathetic and creating a space of open dialogue. See, when you're empathetic and moving through these conversations, it's not just about missing deadlines. It's about how you're doing, how this person is doing, what they need to feel supported. This is not simply just asking questions, but it's actually creating and cultivating a culture within the community, a culture within the organization that you can now say, I'm having personal challenges and the pressure of this project and is listening to them without interrupting them and jumping to conclusion to solve the problem. That's another thing. Don't attempt to solve the problem. Begin to move and see what's already working and see what you can move through that. Because as a solution focused therapist, I say what is already working and let's build on that. And then the impact. We identify practical solutions. This is what's already working and help them to regain the confidence and re-engage with them at work, right? And then begin to not just talk about the dynamic of what it, but why am I showing up with empathy, offering the support. And when the person feels valued, they're feeling as though their performance can't improve. And then you can be more of a guide of confidence and engaging and that the encouragement can possibly return this person back to being present, okay? And then other team members can begin to feel comfortable sharing their struggles, knowing that their well-being matters to their leader, right? So what I learned and what the lessons that I teach is that this experience taught me a crucial point in leadership. It is leading with empathy, leading with an open communication. And these are not just soft skills. We talk about soft skills. These are essential leadership skills. By prioritizing emotional intelligence, I created a culture where challenges can be addressed openly and that solutions could be collaboratively done. And this didn't just help one individual, it transformed the entire team. So I encourage you to think about this throughout the session where I'm going to get into how you can get into situations may come up for you and your leadership role. When you are noticing someone is struggling, are you pausing in the moment? Are you asking yourself, am I focused on the person or am I focused on just the problem? And by leaning into empathy and your communication skills, new communications that you're going to learn today, is creating a culture of trust and resiliency. All right, now let's get into some statistics here. Did you know there's a cost of ignoring your mental health? 77% of professionals report experiencing burnout. So that means that's 3 out of 4 people on your team, your office, or even in this room, even right here on this Zoom, even right here in this session, may experience this. And what starts to happen is this is very relevant. The burnout is more than you just feeling tired. It's a state of emotional and physical and mental exhaustion. And it causes prolonged stress. And when leaders ignore this mental health, when they ignore their mental health, it costs massively, not on just the individual, but on the organization as a whole. And then I'm talking about the leader. I'm talking about you as you lead. Now, when you are really discussing this impact, I want you to really look at what happens when you ignore it, when you ignore your mental health. It leads to reducing of the productivity. It leads to impaired decision making and team declining of the morale. Now, when employees or people on your team don't meet deadlines, it's not just about them meeting the deadlines, but maybe it's not just about the hours, but maybe they're burnt out. And their decision makings, if they're working long hours, it gets clouded by stress of judgment. And then you really have to look at how now you're going to move into this. So I want you to take this moment and look at the solutions. So what are the solutions? It starts with your leadership. Leaders need to normalize the conversations about mental health. They need to normalize that these conversations need to be open, and it's important for them to, it's powerful to send a message to your team that it's okay to not be okay. And we're here to support or get you to the right people that can support you. So for instance, if your team meetings, you start by asking, how is everyone doing? right? That's a common way to start the meeting. Not just with work, but personally. Create the space, a safe space to encourage transparency that can reduce the stigma surrounding mental health, right? Because once you begin to do that, that says that my leader is not avoiding these conversations, but leaning in to mental health, leaning into our team, leaning into prioritizing what the environment is going to create, leaning into, okay, my leader is saying I'm going to thrive because now I can flourish inside and out. And it grows trust also. So my question to you is, what steps will you take today to normalize the mental health conversation in your leadership? Now I'm asking you all these questions because it's important for you to recognize that you need to learn how to do that. So write that question down. What steps will I take today to normalize my mental health and the conversation of mental health in my leadership? Remember, this is about how you lead and making an impact because it matters. Now, this one is where I told you, I promised you that we were going to go into what is emotional intelligence. Well, emotional intelligence, people either say EQ or EI, right? So the terms are interchangeable. And Daniel Goldsman was coined for challenging leaders in this area of emotional intelligence. And looking at this, I want you to ask yourself a question. Have you ever worked with a leader who seemed to always have their cool under pressure, they're calm and collective, they make everyone feel heard and inspired, they go the extra mile? Chances are this leader is really, really, really demonstrating a high emotional and EQ. That's what we call it, or EI, because that's exactly what it is. This leader has control over their mental faculties, they're regulated, they're moving forward, and this is where you want to be. So let's look into what it is. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize and understand and manage your own emotions while recognizing and understanding the influences of everyone else's emotions. It's not just about being nice, it's about being intentional of how we handle relationships. You're in relationships with these people. You are in a work relationships with these people. You're leading them. So you have to look at your own self. So there's 5 components of EI or EQ. The 5 components are emotional intelligence plays a crucial part of you understanding your role as an effective leader. The first one is self-awareness. This is the foundation. You can't go anywhere unless you are aware. I like that. You can't go anywhere unless you are aware. Write that down. I just made that up. You can't go anywhere unless you are aware. So let's look at this. Understanding your own emotions and how they influence your thoughts and your actions. This is where you look at your leadership and you are aware and you can identify your strengths, your weaknesses, and you are not afraid to admit when you're wrong. You're not afraid of that. You are aware. And once you are aware of these emotions, the next step is that you need to manage them. That's self regulation. That means you're controlling your impulses, your reaction. You're staying calm under pressure. You're acting thoughtfully. You're really, rather than reactive. You're responding rather to be reactivated. When you're reactivated, that means that more logic is out the window and you're more emotional. And people can't really be with you when you are in a heightened emotional state. The next one is empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and share your feelings with others. So leaders who show empathy, they build trust. They build a deeper connection. They're able to be with their teams, foster these collaborations, and then, it leads to them being loyal to you. And the retention of them staying is very, very high. So then it moves into social skills, where when someone has a high EQ or EI, their leadership shines. It shines, shines, shines because their social skills, it has been developed. And then they're building and maintaining strong relationships because if you don't have good relationships with people in your where you work with, it's your whole organization can tank. So resolving conflicts effectively is important. Learn this is where I come in at. I go into organizations and be able to really see what their audit their communication, how they're communicating with one another. That's very important. Some people don't even know that there's a communication audit that's done with organizations. I do that because sometimes there could be how someone tone is, how someone speaks is important because they may be triggered and they're moving through their emotions opposed to moving with a high EQ. All right. And then finally, motivation. Now, motivation is fleeting. However, motivation internally drives the achievement and the goals that we move into personal growth, team success, rather than external rewards. Motivated leaders inspire their teams to stay focused and committed. So, I want you to know why emotional intelligence is important because leaders in truth and in essence, you need to look and acknowledge how your leadership is showing up, your role of emotional intelligence, and to keep it there and how you can be effective. A leader with a high EI or EQ can build respect, build trust in their team and navigate conflicts and be very diplomatic and people can really and people can really respect them because they are doing that. So I want you to look at where emotion with that with how you're moving with emotional intelligence right now. You may have a high IQ EQ and how those skills are moving, or if you're struggling to connect with teams and where that is. Because think of your leadership as these five components. And the five components is what are you strongest in? Maybe you're not strong in the social aspect. Maybe you don't have self-regulation. But the beauty of emotional intelligence is that the skill, you can build it over time. And it's important for you to be intentional. It's important for you to have it to be a great leader. Now, when I look at this, connecting your mental health and emotional intelligence, they go hand in hand. When a leader prioritizes their mental health, they enhance the capacity of their emotional intelligence. Okay. Now, what do I mean by that? When you take a closer look at the two, good mental health, my apologies, good mental health, you need to see when I'm prioritizing my mental health, it strengthens my ability to be emotionally intelligent because my mental clarity allows us to be more self aware, like I said before. It allows us to recognize our own emotions and how it affect our actions. And when you are overwhelmed or burned out, it is much harder for you to pause and reflect and respond in a thoughtful way. Now, the next thing is emotional intelligence in leaders. Emotional intelligent leaders are better equipped to manage and lead with empathy because they cultivate this in a space, if they cultivate this in their culture of the workplace, and this will transfer over to the well-being of the person. So, as leaders, it's strongly recommended that emotional intelligence is effective because you are better equipped with your team to show empathy. You're better equipped to create that safe space for others to be understood and valued. You know, so many people don't feel valued. And when you show up and say, I'm going to be able to be one of those leaders that value you, value your worth, value what you do. And the third area is together. When you put these together, the foundation for the organization, it builds resiliency. So as you put mental health and your emotional intelligence together, and when you prioritize these, you're sending a clear message that your well-being matters. and that you're building a trust to encourage the collaboration. And then when you do this, you can actually see that you will build a more stronger foundation and you're able to move up the ladder. And when you begin to strengthen yourself, you can naturally see how it can work together for the good of the company and then create a more powerful foundation and for legacy to build. Now let's get into how to lead with mental health and EQ. So, as a leader, we're not only influenced by the emotional well being of people we lead, but when your mental health is cultivated by EI, you are just not having these soft skills, like they may call it. It's just not a soft skill. You are just, you are moving, it's an essential skill. So I want you to write down that EI or EQ, whichever one is interchangeable, is an essential skill. It's not just a soft skill, it's an essential skill. So write down where you are in your notes. Let's break it down into 3 areas, okay? Prioritizing your health, write that down, right where you are. I want you to get really reactive. I want you to really, really get very purposeful here. This is where you're going to start to implement it. I want you to see how you can lead right when you leave here today. I want you to see how you can lead with EI. The first step you're going to do is incorporate mindfulness. That means take a moment to pause every day in your routine, reflect, engage on what you did. You want to make sure that you're very present with what you have done because this recharges you. It sees you where you have to course correct. Also, this could be a great place for you to begin to meditate, walk, include these journaling inside or whatever the space that your well-being is being taken care of or what you need to do when something is presented. To be an effective leader, you need to see what's happening. And I believe writing it down, reflecting what happened, moving in that is an area for you to do that. The next thing, set boundaries. Prioritizing your mental health, setting boundaries. To avoid any burnout, your leadership cannot go 24/7. It cannot. To be available 24/7 is not realistic. But you need to set clear boundaries around your time and your energy is very crucial. And learn to say no to tasks, learn to align your priorities, learn how to put things and delegate things and cross things out when it don't matter, and make sure that you are now encouraging your team to do the same. And don't penalize them when they start to do these things. Begin to move in that and be with their no and find someone else because you never know what's happening. Okay? The second thing that you can start to do is cultivating emotional intelligence. And this is how you can do that by understanding your own emotions. Talk about journaling with self-awareness, understanding your own emotions. When you start to journal, right, it starts to develop self-awareness. It starts for you to reflect on your own emotions and triggers and patterns, and you start to understand yourself better. It's like holding on and holding a mirror up and really not understanding. You're holding up the mirror and now you're looking at yourself in the mirror. That's what your world is. You got to look at yourself in the mirror. So reflect it. This is where you're looking at yourself, reflecting on your emotions, what just happened. I teach something with the pies method. I teach people how to pause, identify, explore, and bring in those solutions, what's already working. And then you actively are going to listen, actively are going to respond. It's better that you understand that you need to listen to your team to understand their emotions. And you may not understand it. This is where now you bring somebody in like myself to begin to see what's happening. Maybe the team is not gelling. You need to bring someone in. It's not always you in this area that is really strong in the area of bringing synergy to the team. So listening is not just about hearing words, it's about noticing tones, the body language, and underlying feelings. And when you listen with empathy, you can create a space of trust. Respond thoughtfully. That's another thing, not reactively. It's easy to snap under pressure. It's easy. That's why your emotions need to be under control. Your impulse needs to be under control as a leader. Before you respond, ensure that your actions are aligned with your values that you're about to say. Maybe you need a moment to speak or answer. Take that moment. That's why the P is there for pause. I'll get right back to you. I'll get back to you in 10 minutes. Tell them by when you're going to get back to them. So that way they understand I'm being heard. You heard me. Don't let that email go. Don't let that text go and ignore it. No, handle it. Take responsibility for it. They came to you, so handle it. Lastly, fostering a mental health friendly workplace. That means offer mental health days to your team, create environments where they're discussing challenges and normalizes it, right? So when you expand this and when you extend this beyond just the individual actions, it encourages you to allow the team to recharge, right? And it's simply that you can put this in a policy. You can also show that you prioritizing this and normalizing when these are open conversations. You create the environment where it's okay to talk and about the stress. It's okay to bring up these things and to provide resources. I cannot tell you enough that you need to provide the resources, offer the access to the mental health support. If it's not you, then you can be able to assist people with programs in the community. Get connected with someone that can have these wellness incentives that can help your staff really take it to the next level. It can make a big difference. And by focusing on these three areas of prioritizing your mental health, cultivating emotional intelligence, and fostering the mental health friendly workplace, you are not just improving your leadership, you're setting the foundation for resiliency, high performancy. And remember that leading with your mental health first and emotional intelligence is a journey, it's not a destination. It's small steps, small intentional steps to get you to the right space you want to be. All right, so let's go to this. I hope you're getting a lot of value out of this speak today, out of this session. Empowering resiliency, creating a resilient, supportive team. Now, creating resiliency. See, leadership is not just about achieving your goals. It's about empowering your team to thrive, even in the face of challenges. The resiliency and supportive team, that's not just, it's about cultivating, leadership is about intentional practices. So let's explore this. How do you build a resilient team? It starts with cultivating trust and compassion. Transparency through your communication enhances your credibility and approaches of your compassion for the team. It strengthens the loyalty of the team. Then providing resources like the EAPs of the companies, like the employee assistance programs, celebrating the team's success. It boosts the morale, and we really can move in this. And then lastly, support your team during these challenges, because challenges will happen. However, it starts with you being transparent and open. It starts with you building with the compassion. It plays an equal part in understanding the team. So for example, if your team member is struggling, don't just focus on the performance issue. Ask how you can support them with compassion. Maybe you need to bring some people in so they can know how to move with this. Let your team know there's resources out there available. Let them know that you have done the extra step to connect them. Let your message be known that your mental health matters and that we support you here, Okay. And then as you're standing in that, whether you're navigating a challenging in the project or they're navigating personal struggles, be present. Let them know that they're not alone. Resiliency grows when people feel supported, not just being during success, even when they stumble. So create a resiliency supportive team requires you to have trust, resources, and recognition. And when your team knows they are valued as individuals, not just as an output of what they do, they're going to bring their best efforts to the table. Remember, resiliency is not just about bouncing back, it's about building stronger foundations for the future. So this is why you can understanding why this is important, okay? Now, empowering leaders to take impact. This is where it comes to the mental history rule. This is what this session was really all about. You're in leadership to really, really make a difference. I know you are. You're there not only just for your team, but for the larger community. Every decision you make, every interaction you have creates a ripple effect. So I want you to ask yourself, what kind of legacy do I want to leave as a leader? So when you lead with purpose, compassion. When you inspire someone and those around you, you want them to do the same about saying that about your company. So this is why the key is making a difference lies with your action. It lies with your value. It lies with that, meaning that your mental health is the cornerstone of any effective leadership. A leader that directly has direct impact is affected by their mental health. And when you prioritize your own mental health, you show up with clarity, you show up with focus, you show up with resiliency. And this isn't just about taking care of yourself, but it's about setting example as you lead. So when your team sees you managing your stress, setting boundaries, prioritizing healthcare, you give them permission to do the same. And like I said before, do not penalize them when they do this, because leaders create a healthy team by making sure that the healthy team is driven by someone that is taking care of their own mental health. The second one is emotional intelligence strengthens the decision making in relationships. Emotional intelligence is an impact of your leadership because leadership is about people. Emotional intelligence is the key to understand how to connect to people. It helps you to navigate these conflicts with empathy. It strengthens the trust through the authentic part of communication, right? And it also allows you to make sound, thoughtful decisions, balanced decisions, even under pressure. So when you lead with emotional intelligence, you're not just solving a problem, you're building relationships that last, that last. And lastly, the small, consistent actions create meaningful, lasting changes. So when you do this, the significant things I want you to start with creating just small habits. Prioritizing your mental health is being mindful. If you just take on journaling, if you just take on a practice of speaking empathetically, if you just take on that, be committed to celebrating their small wins. This is just small actions that make significant amounts of change and impact. So as you're leading, impact starts with you prioritizing your mental health, cultivating emotional intelligence, and committing to having consistent action. So as you transform your life as a leader, you're also transforming others. So leadership is not just about a title that you hold, it's about a difference you want to make, and that's the impact. So as we closing up today, I want you to see what action are you going to take today? Are you going to be committed to prioritizing your mental health by starting with one small change, one small step? Take something I said today. Are you going to invest in your emotional intelligence through intentional practices? Are you going to commit to that? Are you going to model these behaviors, encouraging your team to follow suit? See, what I want you to do, what I desire you to do, is that I want you to take something from today, because together we can create a healthier, more empathetic workplace. Together we can build teams that have legacy, that's lasting legacy. Together we can do that. I hope that you are seeing what I'm seeing today about EQ, IEI. Whatever you are doing, you can make a difference today. So I want to offer you, if you have a team that you want to transform your team's life, work with all individual. Maybe you need a life audit. Maybe you need a team audit. I want to encourage you. I want you to go to my website, speakyourpowernow.com, or you can go to speakyourpowernow.com/membership. The email, you can email me at cclarkelmft@gmail.com. Schedule something today with me, and you can begin to see your life is a subtotal of what you make of it. Because this is your opportunity to make your life great, to make your company great, to make a legacy. This is your opportunity. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. This is your time. I believe this is your time for us to be together, and this is your time for us to make a difference. And like I always end with this little saying I always say, sometimes your life is defined by one single moment. Let that moment be today. Until next time, God bless and have a great one.